Hello, everybody. Oh, yeah. Where am I? I'm Direction Dan. I'm Direction Dan. Yeah, and I'm always looking. Where am I, up or down? I don't know which way I'm up. And I hope Santa Claus doesn't do that. I hope Santa Claus doesn't do that either. Oh, hi, George.
Well,
How you doing? Come on over.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah, come join us.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Ho,
we were
ho,
just
ho.
at a Head Start place,
Ho,
and
ho, ho.
and
Ho, ho.
yeah, we decided we'd come and talk to everybody about this holiday. I like to talk about what the real history is of different holidays when we have a holiday. This is a time for Santa Claus, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Santa Claus, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Here comes Santa Claus.
yes, that's
Here
right.
comes Santa Claus.
But
Right
you know
comes
what?
Santa Claus
The,
Lane.
the very first Santa Claus, way back, I'm going to tell that story about Saint Nicholas. That he was a Saint Nicholas, person.
Really?
Yes, he
I
was.
didn't know
Yep,
that.
yep, that's what happened. That's what happened. And it was much later than the first Christmas, because the very first Christmas was a birthday party, and it was for a man named Jesus, Jesus Christ. The real guy, the real Son of God. Yep, that was the first Christmas. Yeah. So that was the first Christmas, but much later. Do you think he'll get lost? No, I don't think he will. Well, hey, why don't you tell a story? Okay, I'll tell a story. Okay.
Well, I'm going to go look for a bone.
Oh, wait. Okay, you can listen to the story though, George. I'm glad you're going to look for a bone, but
Well,
one day, way back in this 1600, right now we're in 2021, and in 1600s, that's many centuries ago, there was a little boy born over in the Mediterranean, and that would be someplace you'd have to look up in the world globe, and he was born in an area called Patira, and he was born to some very rich parents, very nice, wealthy parents, and they were the Roman Catholic parents, faith, and they were very devoted to their church and their people. And what happened over here way back then, they didn't have medicines that we have today, like penicillin and things, and a big old plague came through, and a lot of people died, and we kind of know a little bit about that today, don't we? But that's what happened, and his parents died. That left him to be an orphan. And so for real, the church people raised him, and they were nuns. They were women that were devoted to Christ in the church, and this is a history lesson too. And so they raised this little boy. And as he got bigger and older, and he did so much and served so many, he wanted to go to another town and do more. So he moved when he was a little bit older, like 16 years old or so, because back in those days, they were adults at 16. And so he moved over there, and the story goes that back in those days, the girls, when they got married, they had to have sheets and silverware, and they had to have stuff to be able to be married, and it was called a dowry. And so if girls had a dowry, they could be married. And over where this young man grew up, and now he's serving over in this other town, well, there were these 3 girls, and they were being raised by their dad because their mother had died. And the oldest girl came time to be married, because that's what girls were supposed to do in those days. They didn't really look at careers and so forth, but she had no dowry. So what was she going to do? So this oldest daughter, she was going to be sold. That's what they did. They sold the oldest. If they had no dowries, they had to go to some rich person's house and be and serve, be a servant, and be a servant. And so she was going to be sold the next morning. That night, she couldn't sleep too well. She started putting her clothes into a little sack or bag that they had, a little box. She started packing her things. And in the middle of the night, they heard this. And
That's a bell.
It was a Mediterranean area of the world is warm, so the window was open, and she was up on the second floor of her house, and she looked out the window, and she saw a red cape running by, and a bag flew into the window and dropped on the floor, and it was gone. She didn't know who that was or what that could be. She opened the bag, and there was enough money in there for her to buy herself a nice dowry so she could be married and not have to be sold. It was a rejoicing time. They were so excited. They were so happy. The next day, they went out and they bought sheets and silverware and so forth like that. And I suppose there was a young man that was happy that she had a dowry. The second girl, a few years later, not much, just a couple years later, she now did not have a dowry and didn't have anything to be married for. She's going to be sold. So she's doing the same thing, and she put her stockings up by the fire because they had to have fire to keep themselves warm. They didn't have electricity. And same thing happened in the middle of the night. They hear these running footsteps and this bell and a red cape, and she looks out there, and there comes this pouch through the door. Some of it fell into the stockings.
Oh my God.
It was the money she needed for the dowry. They were so excited, so grateful and thankful. And what do you think happened with the third one? Well, the dad says, I'm going to find out who this is. Maybe this is going to happen again if they still know me, and whoever it is may know that my daughter's going to be sold tomorrow, and I'm going to sit up and watch this time. So that night, the girl's putting her things together in her room upstairs, and he sat by the door with the door a little open, just enough that he could watch. And he sat there, and he sat there, and the time that the other girls had the money come in through the window passed. And then another hour passed, and another. In fact, it was getting towards morning. So he was pretty much sure that this wasn't going to happen for his third daughter, when they heard the footsteps running again and the bells, and he saw the red cape, and he opens the door and he sees the man throw the pouch through the window, and he says, stop, stop, and the man won't stop. So he starts chasing him. He said, well, you've got to know who you are. I want to know who you are. And he was fast enough to chase this man right up to, and he tackled him to the ground, and he saw who he was. And the man said, but don't tell anyone. I don't want anyone knowing these things. And he said, I promise I won't tell. And that's how the third girl, all three girls that got their dowries. Years later, they were married, they had children and so forth. The man grew old, and he's on his dying bed, their father, and they're pressing in upon him. Father, I know you tackled that man, and I want to know who it was. And on his dying bed, his breath, he spoke, it's that man Nicholas. Today, we know him as Saint Nicholas, and many people call him Santa Claus.
Well, that's a wonderful story.
Yes, and that's a fun story to tell people. A lot of people don't know the legend of Santa Claus and Saint Nicholas, which was much later than the Christmas birth of Jesus. But that's the birthday, is Christmas. So, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Merry